right? Is my mic on? If you can hear me, raise your hand. Great, nice. Okay, so I'm Nawaal Akram. For those who don't know me, I wear many hats. I'm a disability rights activist, consultant, and a content creator at some time. At one point, I was even in Paralympic training. And for those wondering how I started, was actually when I was 10 years old, the leadership at my school denied me education because of my disability. Now, and after that for 4 years, my parents tried getting into any school as possible, and unfortunately it didn't go through. Now, I was stuck in a strange limbo, basically. I was too disabled for normal schools, but not disabled enough for disabled schools, basically. And this is not just my story. It's a story of 200 million children around the world, and in the region specifically, who are caught in this limbo. Now, they're usually denied the opportunity they deserve, and at the same time, stuck in a limbo. Now, being female and disabled comes with its own societal challenges and barriers. The UN has urgently tried to address the matter on the multiple barriers that women and girls face due to societal preferences on giving more social and economic opportunities to boys and men with disabilities. Now, the intersectionality of race, economic status, nationality, creates these multiple barriers that people face on top of the already existing one when it comes to disability. So these multiple factors might already push more inequality that is faced. For me, when I started sharing what's happening to me through social media and the importance of accessibility, I grew up watching Al Jazeera, BBC, CNN, and I saw that posting stories of individuals or your own through social media can help raise awareness and also connect with the community. As I continued posting and sharing my story, my message that I believe, I started connecting with parents, students who were facing the same issues. And at the same time, teachers started reaching out. So when teachers started learning about my story, they started sharing it to their leaderships in their schools to stop denying disabled student admissions and how much they lose out on when they do this. So this showed that leaderships don't hold all the power, and leadership is also the reflection of the community and society is in. Leadership doesn't hold all the power if the community and the collective effort is done. Now, I want to share more about the amazing efforts that I've seen on collective effort. Was something that I do want to share was during the World Cup. Now, leading through it for years, there were forums, discussion for many years that was involving the different disability community. Now, people usually think it's a short vision just for the World Cup, but actually, these discussions were going through years through these accessibility forums and discussions involving us in the infrastructure, the metro systems, buildings, attractions, all around the country. And it was involving us in a very pragmatic way that our voices were being heard, and we were involved, and a lot of disabled people were also employed in making these changes happen. This was a long-term vision, and not short-term that many people think of. And also during this, I was involved in creating the accessibility guide. As you see, that's our photo. Yes, you can clap. So this was our photo that I created with photographer Maria Osikova to showcase the country's vision of including disability. And this was on the cover for the accessibility guide. But surely we saw some progress. I worked with schools, disability centers in Qatar and abroad to advocate for disability inclusion. This also got the involvement of ambassadors, governmental organizations, and societal centers to include disability at the pinnacle of their agenda. So during my process of educating schools, what I saw that students, and specifically university students, started including disability at the core of their business ideas, designing, digital, and so on. When we talk about accessibility and business, we need to look at the core, and also how can we accommodate something universal. So the more that I saw these student groups learning about disability, I saw that professionally it really helped them enhance their field and get them more opportunities with companies to innovate, design products, and even if they're in the fashion field, to tap into new markets. But as someone that's committed to creating future leaders that embrace inclusion as a pillar of their leadership, we need leaders who not only stand disability, but advocate with a vision at every level of society. Vision without inclusion, it's like a stage with no audience. It kind of misses the target aim or who it's meant to serve. But how do we build an inclusive society? 16% of the world has some type of disability. You can become disabled at any point of your life. You could be driving home and come in an accident and become disabled. It is not granted. So when we look into all these things that you can become disabled at any point of your lifetime, we need to think of disability as a pyramid, okay? At the base, it's culture, home, society, maybe infrastructure, transportation, how do we get around, right? Infrastructure in multiple ways when it comes to buildings, universal access, but at the top, it's leadership and it's policies. And how are they being implemented? And are people being held accountable if they don't follow through the laws, regulations, policies in place? So when one of the layers fails, everything collapses. If we think of that in long term, leadership needs to reassess how are they planning structures, products, systems, and also who is included in making them, which is very important. Disability inclusion is in charity. It's necessary for a country's economic growth. Countries lose up to 7% covered by the World Bank, by the way. That countries lose up to 7% of their GDP when disability isn't included in their policies and their multiple structures. So I wanted something to share food for thought. The British government stats, the UK businesses are losing out up to 212 million pounds annually due to lack of accessibility, digitally and in real life, transportation challenges, and the attitude barriers towards disabled people or customers. So there's also stats by Accenture that conducted collaborating with the Disability and American Association of People with Disabilities, that closing the job barrier and the job gap between people with disabilities with and without, closing that gap, the job gap, can boost the country's GDP by 25 billion. So investing in the disability community is not the right thing to do, but it's the smart thing to do. I'm at a point in my life where countries, companies want to invest in me, my ideas, me as a person, want me to be part of their country, but that could have not happened if leaders and people in the community believed in me. I was able to return back into education after 12 years of getting other people back in education. So that only could happen if we had people, mentors, leaderships that believed in me, and also there's also many people with disabilities in the region that are waiting for their full potential to be unlocked. So what do we do from here? We need to focus on creating more inclusive economies that integrate people with disabilities into the workforce and into the entrepreneurship ecosystems. So one of the things I wanted to share. So organizations that implement disability inclusive policies and practices tend to outperform their peers financially, and this was a 2023 study, by the way, by Accenture, and these were targeting, the 500 Forbes companies around the world. So keeping this in mind, it's really important that we invest, teach, practice more disability inclusion, but also implement it. So that's why I kind of launched my tech tourism startup, Accessible Arabia, was the goal to make the Middle East and particularly the GCC region a travel tourism hub for the 16% of the world to travel to experience, but at the same time create more jobs locally for regional, local, and international accessible tourism, providing real-life updates of accessible locations, attractions, what's going on in the community, and how can we connect the region with the wider world so the international disability community can travel, do business together, and also learn from us and we learn from them. So I'm going to leave the stage with a simple thing for you to think about. Where are people with disabilities in your leadership systems, in your executive boards, or even as employees? And to see, are they upskilling, and how can you include them? So we can have a more prosperous social, economic, and innovation going on in our countries. Thank you.